So it is said that art is a jealous mistress. Now, I didn't say this. This was said by some legendary author many years ago. So by the word jealous mistress, don't get it as a sexist thing, because it's just the feminine of master is mistress in that sense. So the author actually said this, that art is such a jealous mistress that it doesn't allow the person, the artist, to be a good husband or a good wife or a good provider. It takes all of the person, all of the artist. Now, from this context, what we want to discuss today is it good for an artist to have or engage in another profession for earning money, or for maybe some other reason, or an artist should be completely dedicated only to art, that's all. So this is the topic. So I would like to start. Let us start with from this question to dwell on, ponder upon. That is it good for an artist to, split the mission of life into multiple aspects? Or that person should be only mentally, physically, all the time involved in art alone and nothing else at all. So, some of you,
When we say this, right, like I personally feel that we live in the time of artists needing to be more. Right? There was a time when like getting a BFA would be enough to essentially move on to a career which is like a singular career. We live in a time where an artist needs to wear multiple hats. I'm not just saying of the visual field, I'm even in performative arts, right? There is an artist is their own marketer, their own media team, there is their own promotion publicity team and their agent, right? So that's something that is already a multitude of roles, and I feel if one or the other skill exists where an artist can take on a commercial project, that's something that like we see more and more of. And as such, maybe art is definitely, I agree with the fact that like any capable artist does art as a primary. I feel the skills that an artist has to do other things now can net them a fair amount of money, which then allows for you to have a mistress and keep her happy, so to say.
All right, so I think in the forum there are so many artists, so I'll take a role of being a psychologist, which is the reason I'm here. So first I would like to elaborate the word jealous and jealousy per se, because many times when we hear the word jealousy, it is very categorically slated in a negative. Yeah. Whereas any negative emotion, when we look at it, it has a purpose in our life. And that's where when we look at even the jealousy part, it has its own drive. And if you have to really interpret the word, it has like somewhere given the drive to desire something. So if I'm jealous of somebody, it may create some sort of a desire for me to achieve that, to aspire for that. So first and foremost, I would like to broaden the frame for the word jealousy, because it has nothing to do with only the one binary way to look at it. Also, another word which I would like to take from what Anup has said, the passion word, because that's again another highlighted word in the topic when we look at the passion. And I think we all have raised with a belief that passion is something where artists need to be passionate about when they are pursuing any form of art. And coincidentally, when I was doing a research about this topic, passion is a Latin word. And the passe is like, it is suffering and enduring. And which is like, gave me a lot of perspective when we look at the interpretation of the meaning, that passion is like suffering and enduring is something, a lot of time we look at this word. So I'll come back to it, that a lot of researches have been done on passion as the discussion goes on, but I'll hand it over to...
To talk on this, I would firstly distinguish between the celebrities and Aam Janta artists, if you allow me to use the word. And for the rest, who are rather large in number, I would really think that they should have another profession to deal with. And as Shoikat says, the very topic, to feed themselves to begin with. Because to begin with, no artist starts earning money out of their art. So at least during that phase, which could actually be long sometimes, one should have another profession to earn their money. And I would also think existence of the other profession would feed into the art that he or she delivers. I would stop at this.
I have an opinion here that okay, money is one part of it, that for survival. I mean, today if we take art per se, if we take paintings, hardly few paintings really sell from an exhibition. Hardly few. Unless you are exhibiting in, let's say, Jahangir Art Gallery or Habitat Center in Delhi, paintings getting sold are not so frequent. So for an artist, an emerging artist, to survive, just, I mean, he or she has to eat also, right? Put on clothes. So that money has to keep coming from somewhere. So in absence of it, one would not survive to keep painting. Okay, that's one part of it. But there is another angle, I guess, that sometimes it is stated that about Leonardo da Vinci or even M.F. Hussain, that had they not engaged themselves in other stuff, like in case of Hussain, it was furniture making, writing poetry, making movies. In case of Leonardo da Vinci, it was science, several scientific explorations, making models, jumping from the cliff with a wing on his shoulder and things like that. So they say, many people say, had they not, diversified so much, they would have done great job in art. Even better. I mean, they have done it. But probably that's not true. That's not true, because even if you take big scientists, to be able to capture new ideas are floating away, but letting them, grabbed in the head, there needs to be empty spaces in the mind. There has to be empty spaces, and such spaces are not possible if one is continually engaged in the process, ceaselessly doing only one thing. Then it doesn't come. So being engaged in completely another, totally unrelated activity, which also demands attention, focus, energy, is good, in my opinion, for a creative person. Also, the other thing is, as far as artists are concerned, I mean, I am talking about painters or authors or even movie makers, as you are. It is not only the canvas or the laptop or the paper which is your one's resource. It's the main resource is life, their experience, their struggles. So if those things are not there, then this also will dry up. Though they take away a lot of effort and time from that person when he cannot paint or when he cannot write. True, but the resource comes from there. So I feel it's necessary actually in some way.
Very well said, actually. So I would observe based on what our definition of art is, right? That's something that we should primarily start exploring. There is a difference. वो बोलते हैं ना कि everyone thinks that writing is like opening a laptop, sitting on the and typing away. A lot of writing is actually just sitting and staring into the sky for pretty much most of the time, right? 20% of writing is like actually writing, and of which a lot of it is just correcting the old writing that you've done, right? So there is the inspiration part of it, right? So you have to live, as Saikan said, right? Like you have to go out and live. If I cannot find people, if I don't know how a Bania speaks, I won't be able to write a Bania character, right? Then I fall into the depth of writing the same characters that I see around me, right? You'll be a school student and you'll write about your teachers, right? You'll be in a 9-to-5 job and you'll write about the office. So these are cycles that we recreate because inspiration is a key element of art. right? Then there is the practice, which is where I feel a lot of people would differ, that an artist needs to be dedicated and only do art, because that's what they mean, the practice element of it, right? The honing of the skill is something that is genuinely something that will take time. So you have to write, for me as a writer or a filmmaker, you have to make films to become a better filmmaker. You can't just start tomorrow and be the best filmmaker ever, right? That's ego speaking, right? In a very realistic content. The same works for visual artists, right? Till you do not understand how paint interacts with canvas, you will not be able to make what you see as inspiration onto canvas, correct? So that's the second element. And then there is the third and final element, which is it has to be expressed. All of this, so a lot of times there is the other extreme also, which I feel that we will inevitably avoid, because that's the class of artists we don't see as famous, because those are the ones who gave up, right? A lot of people who give up are people who've not brought it to fruition. A script was written, 8 pages, no more. A painting was started, the base coat was done, the initial leading lines were created, and then no more, right? This is the curse of today's time. We live in a time of distractions to the degree where everything gets abandoned very, very quickly. So in bringing these 3 elements, the completion of it, the inspiration of it, and the practice of it, I would say art in its truest sense first is expressed inspiration backed by skill. Okay, if we can decide and agree upon that explanation, I feel going forward it becomes very easy to understand whether these are interacting with the elements of like a commercial project or a 9-to-5 job or a day job in whatever ways, right? As long as it is expressed and it is inspiration and it is backed up by skill, it's not an act of randomness, right? I personally, and this is my personal definition, I'm not saying that this should be a universal definition, but is art, right? So anything that helps that, according to me, is something that can and should be justified, and in fact is a vital part of the process. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to take it? Okay. All right. So I think somewhere the whole tone of 4 of us are that we are agreeing that artists essentially or primarily can have a parallel profession. And that's why we are talking about the life experiences, because ultimately what you're going to write, what you're going to make, what you're going to draw, it is all going to come from the real life experiences. And as very rightly mentioned, that if I have to write the character of Bania, and if I have not interacted with Bania or observed Bania enough, how am I going to write that? But at the same time, where we are talking about the inspiration part, where I want to take that whole drive, because many times we feel that the persistence, the ability to sustain, the ability to handle that kind of a frustration, where I don't think any success is coming to me. Where it will come from is also the question, because many times people give up that need and drive. If I have a profession, the money is coming, food is being served on the table. So is there a reason that people have a parallel profession, and because that inspiration and that drive is not as intense as usually people have only one single focus towards art, that जो भी होना है यहीं से होना है, दाल रोटी भी यहीं से आनी है, fame भी यहीं से आना है, and that's where the drive is more, is a question for all of us to ask.
Actually,
Yeah.
Sir, if you don't mind, if I
Please.
yeah. So I believe that there is a human being is capable of doing multiple things, right? There are few things that give us joy, right? And an artist needs to have that as a primary. Your art is done more than anything else because it gives you joy. My question to everyone is, would you do this for free?
Yeah.
If you would do art for free, then you have the basic passion to become an artist, to attempt at art as a career. I would love to do what I love doing and get paid for it, right? I would love to do what I do on a scale that is bigger, right? I can still make a film. I have a phone in my pocket. I have all the resources I need, right? Can I make a film where a car flips over? Probably not, right? So the next goal is to scale it up to that degree. For visual artists, it's about, okay, can I then exhibit in this gallery or such and such place, or like a bigger and bigger canvas, right? That's what we search. And I'm saying that while the rest of the things that we do, and this is where I disagree, right? I'm saying depends on what stage you are at. If you are in the learning stage, you should do nothing but art, right? If you are in a stage where you've learned and gained the basic skills, then you should move on, because there is a financial element to this, right? So then you can start parallelly juggling this. Then you can start finding adjacent things. So if you are an artist, like exploring graphic art or like mural work or actually tattoo art, right? As an artist is an expression. It's different forms which allows you to tap into a need that the society has to fulfill art, right? So that is my, depends on the stage is what my contribution would be.
Adding on to what the speaker said, I also feel another profession gives rise to different experience, exposure, and opportunities for the artist to look at life which he or she is possibly watching through the other profession in a new perspective, and that can be put back into the art that she creates.
But sir, don't you think that there is, as I said, right, like, so when we start off, okay, I want to be an artist, I believe that the moment there is a backup, a fallback, right, it all becomes observation. It then becomes like a thing to bring up in parties, right? Sadly, that's also a big segment of people who, like, what do you do? I am an artist, right? When was the last time you painted? Like 7 weeks ago, right? That's not how it is, right? By that logic, I'm a cook, right? I'm a chef, right? But the logic is you have to justify your time for inspiration. And I feel that's where a lot of people, especially young people, really get flawed, right? Because it's so easy to get caught up in the cycle. Like you as a graphic designer, when you're expected to churn out like 10 creative pieces a day, right? At some point or the other, you will see that there is a drain rather than an addition. There is a value removal rather than a value addition. By practicing something that is getting you money, is adjacent to your art, your craft, but at the same time is in fact doing the opposite. It's stealing your joy. It's taking away your skill and your like frame of mind. How do you look at tackling that?
See, as you said, we are doing these exhibitions or little bit events is that in relation to art for past about 6 years, and interestingly, she is one of my what I should say comrade who is still there almost since beginning. But we had 4-5 people. Out of them, let's say 2-3 were wonderful. I mean, they had all the promise of becoming very good artists.
Correct.
And one of them today spends all the time biking across the country. Another one is very happy and dedicated running a physiotherapy institute and doesn't paint anymore. Now the thing is, what I came to conclude over a period of time, I am also an author with not one book like Runaway Success of Making Me Very Rich or something like that. That its talent is one part, the genius inside, that is one part. Skill is another. But one of the most important thing that qualifies an artist or author or people in such field, being the drive to keep doing it, despite there is recognition, there is success, there is anything. As we said, are you doing it for free? Are you happy doing it for free? So this continuation is just not possible in most of the people because they have another profession actually. That acts in because they are probably getting much more success in the other side. So this takes a back seat and finally disappears despite all abilities.
Correct. So you didn't want art, you wanted success.
You wanted success,
right?
you said
so
it.
No one likes
You
to
said
act, everyone wants to be a superstar.
Right,
That's
right.
the difference, right? If I genuinely feel that like that dispassionate approach towards your craft has to be like conversely approached, in the sense, if it doesn't keep you up at night, don't do it. It's not for you. It's not for you, and it's okay. There are a lot of people in this world doing a lot of things, right? There are 1,500 ways to make money in this world. We have chosen this.
Yeah.
Because it is an inevitability. I cannot choose anything else. I will be unhappy doing everything else, right? I've, like, in a very short period of time, actually for the past decade, I've tried multiple things, right? I keep coming back to this because storytelling is actually what it is about, right? That's my craft, that's my art, that's what I like to do, right? Everything else will come, it'll peak and it'll fade. It might get you money, it might not get you money, right? But this I will do for free because I cannot sleep without doing it.
But I asked Supriya, I mean, what do you think? This is one thing, how whether the artist should carry on, whether it will support his art or not, her art or his art. But the other side of it is this disparate passion, the maddening rage of a passion. It does it somewhere. Can it affect the person's interpersonal relations, his or her, as that author said, he can't be a good husband or a good wife. So at times he's not a good provider. Is it really? Is it possible?
So I think first and foremost, I would like to defy this label given to the artist, because in my clinical practice, I come across irrespective artists. They may not be the good husband, they may not be the good wife, and they may not be the provider also. But probably the artists are.
इसके लिए artist होने की
जरूरत नहीं है, वो वैसे ही हो जाता है, मुझे लगता है. Yeah, because as you said, interpersonal dynamics are very different. Having said that, I also would like to bring that not much research is being done on the word or the space of passion. It's been just as mature as 20 years. And that's 20 years research on the word passion talks about a model which a very famous psychologist, social psychologist have given us. And he says that a model is, one is harmonious passion and another is obsession passion. And that's where the harmonious passion is something where it is recommended, where it is advisable in terms of it supports the life satisfaction, it supports the other areas to your life. You can take care of your relationship, you can take care of your well-being, you can take care of other walks of life. So in general, the whole purpose of art is to bring life satisfaction. Whereas the obsessional kind of a passion is something where you feel that it is a very, you are just not aware about the kind of environment you are in. So for example, what you are talking about, that if I am an artist and you are married to an artist, be very sure that I will not be available for any, humdrums of life or any kind of errands because I am an artist. And this is also something I think we need to challenge, that belief that do we take that kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that because I'm an artist and along with artist, I need to be creative, and the creative person looks like this. That probably not responding to, not attending to, general, because these are very mundane things and people are made to attend those mundane things. But because I'm an artist and I'm a creative person, I will probably be demeaning for me to involve or engage in this kind of a thing. And that's where the researchers talk about, where they have taken a sample that in the long run, the well-being and the life satisfaction of the people, where they are looking at their passion from a perspective of harmonious rather than obsession.
I have a question here.
Please, everybody, please, pitch in there, all of you. Yeah.
So my question is, can passion be really tagged as passion if it is not obstructive? Because if it is harmonious passion, which is great, okay, which is probably adding on to your direction in life, if it is value adding, all of that, very good. That's great. But like we mentioned, that it is not keeping you up at night, okay, then in that case it probably falls in the category of a hobby still, and not stepping up to the level of that passionate burn that will keep you going. It will fall back and it will probably drop off at some stage. I mean, that's my take on it.
I think you said it, because then it falls into the category of hobby, and the passion requires a different kind of a focus and intensity.
Yeah, exactly. It's not necessary that it will probably be as intense all the time and continuously, because it's probably not possible. And like all of you very correctly said, that at least at this time and age, it is perhaps not possible and not even advisable that you stick to only one thing and do nothing else. Okay? And as any artist, it is not possible that we don't give avenue to our other artistic abilities somewhere. In whatever, I mean, we are probably not performing, we are probably not out there on the stage, but just for our own satisfaction, somebody writes poetry. It may not ever be published, okay?
Yeah.
But we write for, the love of writing.
Yeah.
That's what. So that has it, and then obviously the very question of having a source of income as a different source of income rather than our passion. But circling back to the central question of what do we really call passion? How do we really, define passion? The very word, it brings the, as artists, we are visual artists, right? So we connect it to color, we connect it to what we see. It's burning red, yellows, and all the warm colors. If it is not that, then what is it? That's something that I'll just go through.
Yeah, sure.
You want to take this?
Yeah, please.
I'll just say one sentence.
Yeah.
As I said, right, are you capable of choosing this? Is the passion, right? My point is, a good measure is, will you drop what is making you money to do what your passion is? That's passion, right? Like, if my passion is to ride bikes, will I drop everything else that I do to ride bikes? Then that's my passion, right? Otherwise,
That's exactly so.
right? It's choice.
Not a counter exactly.
No, please do counter.
Yeah, no. Exactly. But the thing is that for a very long time, okay, although I mean, I still don't count myself as a professional artist in any way, but an artist by heart, right? But in order to choose in this profession or step into this zone of actually going out and exhibiting and trying to sell my art and moving into this as my primary source of income, perhaps at any point in time, I shied away from it, thinking that if I ever take this up as the only thing that I'm doing in order to earn, I might lose it, because that's when I'll stop doing it for myself and not for somebody. I mean,
And I'm saying that that's the problem, that we equate or we give far too much importance in this conversation to source of income.
true.
I don't care if I'm getting paid for this.
Exactly.
I'm just saying,
Exactly.
I will do it with intent. So, as you said, right, like any form of writing, if you're writing poetry or if you're painting, is practice if it is not done with the purpose of being published or with the purpose of being performed or with the purpose of being displayed, even if it is to anyone other than yourself, right? Purpose, the intention has to be there, right? That is number one. Number two is we've already lost the plot the moment we're talking about it from a financial point of view, because then I'm doing it for money.
Correct.
I'm not doing it for me or for art or for passion, right? So my logic is money comes, and believe me on this, it does. The only thing is, are you being honest in this transaction, right? And call it very aspirational and might be blindly optimistic, right? But the only way to approach this is that the passion is almost self-destructive, right? And as such, like, the pragmatic view goes out the window for me personally, right? So, but what do you think? Like, how do you balance these two things?
One thing is important, that the art cannot be a hobby, but it has to be a profession. And it is possible to have profession. There are lots of people who are doing 2 or 3 jobs, and that entails that you practice your art or keep creating in a continuous manner, not one and then 3 months later. That is one important thing. And there's something else.
So there is this saying that artists don't get paid, they get commission.
That's another point. See, any other profession like doctor, engineer, or a scientist gets money by the very job that they do. But art as a profession is very different from this. Art is taken by those who like it, not as a part of their responsibility of employing the artist. And that makes art a different kind of profession than the other professions that we know. And that possibly entails some amount of difference on the part of the artist's art creation and a engineer or doctor's 9 to 5 job kind of thing. I am not as such clear as of now what the impact of that difference could be.
Okay. To this end, I feel before. So, doctors, lawyers, engineers get paid for their knowledge, right? I feel artists get paid for their opinion. That's what we do best, right? In all its forms, art is an opinion. It's me presenting a thought or an idea or an expression or an inspiration into a format that can be consumed. So if I am that individualistic, so it's a consultant sort of a position, right? When it comes to that approach. The fact that I get paid because you decide that you need to pay me. My work is my work, I'll do it to whatever degree. And then, of course, there will be demands that I can place to the art or the work that I'm bringing, right? But I feel the moment we start thinking of it as an equitable thing, your art versus what you get paid for it, we've kind of lost the primary focus is lost. Let me put it that way.
See, but here we are. There was a sequence of questions that I thought, but then it has proceeded very beautifully, and we are almost there. I have this point to also mull over. That does the way the artist or a creative person needs money also to survive, and also to be able to keep pursuing art. At the same time, does at times money kills creativity? I mean, the inflow of money from the very art that is coming in, does it at times kill creativity? Why I said this, that there are several examples of artists, I mean big names I am referring to, who had been fumbling for quite a few years about which kind of paintings to do, this way, that way. And then at some point, some of their art pieces suddenly drew attention of the people, and their career took off like anything. And the rest of the career, say probably more than 40-50 years, these people kept painting exactly the same thing. And they didn't have the guts to do anything else because it was bringing in money. Not one scroll they will do.
You become a prisoner of your own.
That is style actually. Style is a prison. I mean, example, Jamini Roy. Jamini Roy, if you see paintings of Jamini Roy before he did those, came up with that typical, half Kalighat style or whatever, Indian, Bengali Potochitra, that style. Before that, he did landscapes, he did everything, all kind of stuff. And he didn't, hit the bullseye. This one did. उसके बाद उसने और कुछ पेंट ही नहीं की. He kept on doing that. If you take again another strange example is Francis Newton Sousa. Even Sousa painted until 1960, let's say around for 40-50 years, the man painted very sincerely, only vented out his angst and frustration and ferocity on canvas. So horrible faces against the Catholic clergy, horrible faces, violence and stuff like that. It was rebellion, sheer rebellion, savage rebellion on canvas. And in India, it was not recognized for very, very factual reason that we were not aware of Catholic Inquisition. Nobody was bothered about it much. But the moment he did it in London, he became an overnight international sensation. It happened overnight actually. Parallelly with an article he had written. And in London, he remained a grand success, but when he moved to US, again a flop. Because they were devout. US was celebrating prosperity at that time. He was devout. Now, why I am saying, after that, if you see Sousa's paintings, stark disconnect. After that, suddenly he finds, oh my God, my paintings are not selling. So ऐसी painting बिकती नहीं है इधर. उसके बाद वाला जो painting देखोगे, सब कुछ paint की. कुछ भी. That means he was trying. Such a legendary artist, rest of his life, didn't know bloody what to paint.
Because see, maybe that, I don't know much about Sousa particularly. I can only give a generalized this thing. You become a prisoner of your own success. We all want success as an artist, but what happens is then once you have fame, people know you. Then people expect the same things and you are catering not to your passion. You are catering to people.
Like a very rudimentary, like Buddhas बिकते हैं, तो Buddhas ही, I don't want to paint Buddhas, but they are the only thing selling, nothing else sells. So is it, but day and night I'm painting Buddhas and making money. But I don't really want to. I'm only utilizing my skill. I'm not utilizing my heart, and passion is from the heart, not from your skill level only.
It's like
Yes.
a cycle, and it's actually the. I think it's still the ask, at least probably in the the art circle, because when I started exhibiting at a very rudimentary level, of course, I mean I've tried different things, but I have of course my very basic style of painting, and everybody has that. But even within that, let's say I've had multiple discussions with Shoykota earlier, that okay, landscapes versus figurative versus something else, okay, abstracts, where do you find your comfort level is each its own choice. But at the same time, something that I've heard very commonly coming from senior artists is that you find your style. You can keep doing multiple things, but find your style, which is fantastic. But the moment we say find my style, aren't we talking about that very thing, that what clicks with the audience? And in that case, if I find that style that okay, this sells, then I get stuck there. Then I don't evolve anymore, right? Because within a span of let's say 3-4 years or 10 years or 14 years, whatever, if an artist keeps on trying different things, something will be great, something will probably not be so great. Not everything will sell for sure, but then we are covering a huge scope, right? But I think that is like a stopper. I'm sure, I mean, that is where there is a dichotomy between a tug of war between where passion goes and where the market goes, right?
I think that is the reason, if you have, coming back to the central topic we were discussing, if you have something which pays your bills, you are free to follow the passion. I mean, and you can just live in that belief somewhere in this 8 billion words, billion people, word of 8 billion people, there will be a little handful of people who will, resonate with you, and you don't need to go and acha usko ye pasand aaya ki nahi usko. You don't have to do that.
But an artist cannot be
You are free from that.
with their audience.
That is
We are, of course, a result of the people who consume our art. Otherwise, why do it, right? There is, I personally, and this is why I defined art right at the beginning, right? It is for consumption. Any art done for personal use is practice. Everything else for another, my inspiration for another is what art is. So in that definition comes the answer. I am not detached from the audience. In fact, I am doing it for the audience. So when I am doing it for my audience, I have to I have to naturally react to what their response is. Thus, his changing of style, Souza's changing of style, comes as a result of his interactions with the people, right? And there is that, as I said, right? Like, I don't know if art is a jealous mistress or not. Artists definitely are, right? We each love each other's formats. Okay, so a writer would want to be able to sketch out their ideas. I personally have that as the biggest envy. Arpit knows this more than anyone else. I keep going like, I wish I had that. I wouldn't need you anymore in my life, right? So that's my skill. And I know a lot of painters envy poets, because there is that ability to put ideas into words and string that into semblance, right? So each of these artists, we kind of like are always envious of each other's work and each other's skill, and that's what keeps us going, right? But ultimately coming down to the fact that this is not a sacrifice, right? This is just process of developing our skills as we are. Our sacrifices when it comes to choosing whether money, whether not, is to basically come and can you give it up? Can you give up comfort? Can you give up family? Can you give up a partner? Can you give all of these up to develop a certain skill while keeping audience as important, right? So your partner will have to be a person with very low expectations from you, right?
That's exactly.
My partner is right here, by the way. So,
Let us hear from her.
correct. Extremely low standards, so to say.
Before we hand it over to Saloni, I also want to ask that when we say we become the prisoners, like when the audience starts demanding that certain kind of a painting. Now think about it the other way around. Because somewhere I think we look at it that art and money are two very different extremes. Because when you look at Prisoner, if your art is for consumption, right? We are talking about, we need audience. Now, when we need audience, how they give us that kind of a recognition? By buying our, so money is involved. And that's where when we look at it that if my paintings are not being, appreciated or consumed, I'm also again prisoner because I'll not have the resources. Because that's what where we are saying that we cannot really take that extreme because prisoner तो हम है ही यहाँ पे जन्म लिया है ना तो prisoner तो बन ही गए from that philosophical point of view.
It should be a balance. Why
Exactly.
we make art for public consumption? I sit in my studio lonely. Art is a lonely thing to do, and I like it. I like what I make, and when I exhibit, nobody else likes it. It is going to a little bit bother me.
Yeah.
But I will tell you one thing. When you come from an authentic space inside you and not into people, but if I want to please you all of you sitting here will not have the same opinion about the one painting behind you.
Exactly.
Right? So if I keep on कि नहीं मेरे को तो लोगों को please करना है, I will not please even myself. When you are coming from an authentic place, कि सबसे पहले I do not know what are your motivators, what are yours. At least I know myself. I please myself first. Then somewhere some people will get attracted to that. Maybe not many. Invariably, people will get attracted to your paintings when it comes from an authentic space inside you. Painting is a very vibrational thing. That's what I feel. When you look at a painting, you see trees paint हो रहे हैं, seascape, हर कोई कर. Do you connect with all? You don't. वो सी एक particular seascape, why do we connect only with that? In that, I have seen people, really getting into awe. And then I will say, yeah, you know what? It is the vibration of the artist also, which is a part of the soul goes into that. And someone will connect if you put the soul there. If you do it very mechanically, no one is going to connect. You may have a, I would say, short-term success. कि okay, Buddha was in vogue. लोगों ने 4 खरीद लिए. You are not going to last, and eventually it is not going to please you also. Because तुम अब तो अपना authentic कर ही नहीं रहे हो. You want to do something else, but you are doing Buddha because that is selling. It will run out. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure.
If I could just quickly add one more gate before we go, right? I'll talk about my format. Because as you said, right, like art is a lonely thing. For me, writing is a lonely thing. But the execution of it into film is a 40% thing, right? So it's very joyous and bringing together. My thing is, as long as I can pass my passion to the people around me, right? And people can come together to make this happen, right? You're looking at an idea becoming visual to everyone. Like an irrefutable clarity on that level, right? That is awesome. That feels great. Yes. But the skills that are required and the skills that we've had to acquire doing this, right, are actually some things that pay significantly well on the baseline. So a lot of artists, visual artists especially, right, the start is very shaky and difficult to establish yourself as a visual artist. It's exactly the opposite when it comes to anything that has cinema or dramatics involved, where there is a huge market and the application of it is very easy. Like a wedding shoot today is like 5 lakhs upfront, right? And that's the easiest. I'm talking about the easiest of easy. You have a camera, you can point and shoot and edit, right? If you get into ads, like a fair amount of money, like at least 15 lakhs per ad is what my point is, right? So there is the temptation of the easy, right? Because then you're not making it for you, you're a tool. You are being used as a tool for someone else's vision. So that's why I feel like I have such strong opinions about this, because I've come from the tail end of it. I've had that expression and the inability to express your own thoughts. It makes you that much more confident about, okay, cinema is what I want to make. My ideas put into an emotion that I can convey to the simplest of minds in the easiest of manner, right? That then drives that aspect of, okay, I will give up. And thankfully, the people who join you will then make their sacrifices for you, right? At any given point of time during a film production, my house has 30 strangers, right? There are 30 strangers who are going through our stuff, using our space. Saloni and my dog are in a corner. They're not allowed to enter these spaces, right? But it happens. And God alone knows what is her patience with me. But clearly I've earned it. So I have something in me that made her go like, no, she has very low standards and is easily impressed. Let me put it that way.
I think it's a right time for
See, you have to keep testing.
I think
No, so what I was going to say to your point, about finding that balance between being creative while also appeasing an audience. I've seen this a lot in the work that he does, or even these two, for example, because they're both painters and tattoo artists. And I think it's on the artist how much of their art they are able to take to different medias. So, like Arpit is a full-time painter, but he also does projects where he's painting big walls that pay him, right? Narendra is also a painter, but he's also using those skills to make tattoos that pay him. So I feel like the block comes when you come from a traditional thought process and don't want to explore or don't want to get out of your comfort zone. Like me as a journalist, with what I do, the way I write is very, there's a standard, there's a format, there isn't much creativity that you can put there because I'm interviewing someone and I'm writing it down. I can't add my own story to it. But I can do that if I want to when I work with him on his scripts, or when I help a friend of mine come up with a social media caption for a post of his. So I feel like we're living in that age now where every artist has to figure out how to make every piece of art their own. So they could literally do what they are doing, but in a way that is appeasing to everyone. Like, so in our office, right, because everyone has a different style of writing, you can read a piece or you can see a infographic made by a designer and tell who's done it, who's written it. We're all writing on different stories. The topics these guys make infographics on, the space they're going for is all different. But everyone has that one thing about the way they write, about the way they paint, about the way he might be using his brush stroke, his needlework. With Anup, I think the way he approaches topics comes out, whether he's writing a script, whether he's doing a branding or a marketing strategy. And I think that is what will stop art from being a jealous mistress, if I can, say that, where you're taking your art and incorporating it so much into your everyday life that you don't have to make that hobby versus profession differentiation anymore.
Your point of taking it as a traditional versus a contemporary thing. Very frankly speaking, and that is something that I've seen happening in my own life. Because when I was growing up in my school, if anyone, all kids are asked this question at one point in time, or multiple, right? What will you be when you grow up? Okay, my standard answer was, I want to be an artist. Okay, I did not know what I wanted to be or how I wanted to be an artist, but I wanted to be. Or at least even if I was not vocal about it, because I was a very silent person at that time, I would not say it, but I would wish it. Okay, and at least my parents knew. And while both of them have always been extremely supportive of my artistic side, I know that my father was extremely wary. If I step into that zone of going into fine art college, what will I earn and how will I stand on my own 2 feet? Okay, because financial independence is something which is absolutely important, and that is something I am blessed to know that, at least in my family, nobody thinks that, okay, get the girl married and she is settled. That is not the way to be. So that is why I think, going back, my father very cleverly kind of tried to say that okay, this is good, but maybe not the best way to go. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, do you think you can do also something else in the parallel or something else as a primary one? Kind of, yeah. So he actually very consciously and very actively tried to check for fine arts college admissions and how they work and what they would, and somehow it did not work out at that point in time. I somehow feel that he was a little relieved, okay, thinking that okay, fine, this would probably go for a regular job rather than that. But then he has always had my back. So, and that is where later, much later, when I started displaying my art, and he knew that that is out of my passion, okay. And the discussions not very intense, but we've had that artist does not need to stick to only that one format, that you create a canvas art and display it and kind of depend on people to buy it and not do art in any other format, because the world has progressed, right? And you can do art in so many other forms. It is completely your choice which way you want to go, right? So there are many of my artist friends who also, again, don't call them artists, call themselves artists, but they are doing stuff. They put up their art at pop-up exhibitions, they sell stuff, and they find a lot of joy in doing that. They don't do canvas art as much, okay. And then when we have a conversation, they would be like that, oh okay, you would probably not do that. I said I would probably love to do that, yeah, if I find the time, and I would probably do that. I might not sell it, okay, but that is a different question altogether. So that's how it all goes. So I completely agree with what you said, that it's all about the format, all about how you apply it and where you apply it. Very true.
See, I'll just add to it.
Can I
Go on, because I'll pitch it a different angle right now.
Like Saloni mentioned, there is an artist, Louise Fletcher. She's on Instagram, very popular, and I like her style of painting. And what she said once was, she has a YouTube channel. She has an yearly course, which is pretty expensive for the artist, 12-week course. I took that course last year. And she has, I think, 1 or 2 other sources of income. She says, because I do all this, do my art, I teach art, I make YouTube videos and everything, when it comes to painting myself, I don't have to compromise at all. Because my bills are being paid by all the other streams, which I'm using my art to, it's because I'm using the same skill set. But when I paint, I don't have to think if someone will like it or not. So, and then I'm completely free, because the commerce, I mean, it's like big to big, nahi bika to nahi bika, because I'm already getting paid to other means. So many artists these days are doing it,
So with a success can give rise to an impairment which impairs the very creative ideas which create success. It can, but not necessarily. So we have seen this in science research, where publish or perish is the word. So a series of papers, let us say, get published of a scientist, and then without going for further creativity, it's possible to perturb the assumptions only minorly. What was square, make it rectangular, and publish another paper. So there are people who choose that track, but there are many who do not. Suja and Jamini Roy possibly would have been in one category. I'm sure there are plenty of artists who continue to create further without bothering for just volume.
Correct. Absolutely. If I could say
just one thing. This is not necessarily a great. One thing only I'd say. Not necessarily every great artist had style. There had been artists like Kishan Khanna. Every damn painting was in a different style.
Who's?
Kishan Khanna. Every damn painting in a different style. Anyhow, this is one thing. Another thing, there is someone here, Sweta ji is a very inspiring character who knows art in and out, very deep knowledge of tribal art, etc. All fine. But what she does is satisfying to her also. Village after village in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, tribals are living out of the paintings she buys from them. That's what she does.
Beautiful. Wonderful. So I feel we're all speaking on two scales, right? Because we're all of a certain age bracket where we're talking about either established artists or people who are fairly well into their art careers. I would actually like to pivot a little bit towards the people who are taking up art right around now, like as an early first year to first 5 years of art, right? If and came from the wealth aspect of things that you were speaking about, right? If you are a person who wants to be wealthy, don't do art. Straight up, don't do it. Okay? Do investment banking. It is dependable. It is very goal oriented. Investment banking करो, आप बहुत पैसे कमाओगे. If you want to create culture,
If we want our descendants to be
correct. No. So, and I'm coming there, right? If you want to create culture, if you want to be cool, if you want to be recognized, if you want love, affection of a kind that cannot be felt, like quantified, it can be felt, right? Then do art. Because that is what we are chasing. The reason why even great artists change their style based on the audience is because they love it. They love those claps, they love that applause, they love that moment in the sun. That's what we chase because it's a human need that we are chasing. What we fulfill is also a human need. There is a reason why there is painting, art, like all of these patterns, they're pleasing to the eye. It's innate, it's hardwired into our minds. Art is here to stay. There will be a niche few people who will fulfill that need in a way where they can also sustain themselves. Whether you are or whether you are not, time will tell. Your tenacity will tell, right? But be very clear about the fact that you will have to sacrifice. There are sacrifices, right? You might not be able to get that car or get a television ever, right? Or get a loan at any bank, right? The fact is that these are all sacrifices an artist has to make. Because, as the topic says, art is a jealous mistress in that sense. It does not demand your time, it demands sacrifices, right? You want to have children and have a big family and a big house, don't do art, right? 1 in a million chance of you becoming that person. But do you want to touch people's hearts? Do you want to change the way people think? Do you want to add to this canvas of human history that we've passed on? Then do art.
हाँ, but उसमें जो अभी what सुप्रिया also, I think is वो नज़दीक वाले का हट का टच नहीं होता है, सब दुनिया भर का टच हो जाता है. This is the problem. There is the issue.
As I said, good heart, low, like क्या बोलते हैं उसको, low expectations and very easily impressed. These are the combinations of people to keep.
Anyway, okay, we will close actually quickly because there is an inauguration also. But I think we more or less agree, right, that artist can have another profession. Okay, we should have actually. I didn't dare say should have. Exactly so. Exactly.
Get out and experience life also.
Absolutely.
Be able to draw from it.
So, well, as Anup says, or you said, or even Nilanjana said, that another profession on the borderline which takes, which uses the same faculties but brings money. That's what you're saying. Okay, I would go further. That because I am an engineer, I have a full-fledged corporate life. It's a double life I lead. Okay, I'm a salesman rather. I had been a salesman, traveling salesman, selling machines. All my career for past 29, 25 years, at least last 4 years, no different. Now, for me, until I was until standard 9th, my poems used to appear in the leading newspaper, Anandabajar Patrika, every few months. And then one day when I was in standard 9th, very conservative family, my father discovered that I wrote a love story. Probably the best short story I ever wrote. And a diktat was issued. No more writing, no more writing, no more painting. Your marks are coming down because of that. And I stopped actually. I stopped. I mean, the Bengali literary fraternity, the legends, they knew me by face. They wanted me to write short stories and begin to earn out of it. But I stopped. And ended up an engineer. They wanted me to be an engineer. I became an engineer. I got a job and the rigor started. Now, the thing is, I carry the angst and frustration that I was taken away just right from the age of becoming a successful author, right at that time in Bengali. But ये भी सच है कि because I became an engineer and more so I became a traveling salesman going to godforsaken places across the country, barren lands, factories. I think that gave a lot of resources to my writing when I resumed in English. My fictions had a lot of elements of that life. Have I not lived that, I would not get that flavor at all. So this is the thing. So I'd like to come to the conclusion for this, because here whoever artists are there, except Arpit, they call us hobby artists. You know, they. Who are they? जो वो कॉलेज से निकले हैं कौन है? नहीं, he is a mechanical engineer.
He himself is out of that.
No, but he is a mechanical engineer. He is not art college product. Okay. I'm talking about those who, you know, came out of.
कॉलेज में आजकल इसीलिए जाते हैं कि उनको पता चले लाइफ में करना क्या है. आधे तो कॉमेडियंस बने हुए हैं. तो जाते इसीलिए.
So मतलब those who came out of art college and then tried to capture art as a profession. Some people succeeded also. I know people are surviving that way, doing mostly these borderline professions, less of art. They call us hobby artists, quite derogatory. I would say that's what I told some time back during an exhibition to somebody. You paint for money, we don't.
One thing I mean, yes, this is of course a term that a lot of us have heard many a times, and the way I choose to think about it is, hobby has to be the first stage of greatness. If you don't start anything as a hobby, it will never go any length of the way. So if at any point in time only history will tell whether one hobby artist went over and past a professional artist or not.
So many.
Yes?
50% of the artists have never gone to art college.
It's about intensity, I feel.
Yeah.
You could be a professional artist, only do art, but do it without intention, right? Or you could be a hobby artist and do it with absolute intention and that depth.
That passion.
Correct. You have to be critical of yourself as well, right? Then you will bring out, and then everything else is a title, and it's a word.
It is the opinion and the thought that you're presenting through your art,
Correct.
which connects to the audience, which makes you go for it.
I think audience doesn't care कि तुम्हारा resume लगा है. DFA हो क्या हो.
Nobody cares.
Doesn't
कोई
care.
लिखता नहीं है resume.
वो जो फीलिंग है ना, अच्छा आर्ट है, अनडिनाइबली. वो देख के समझ में आ जाता है. आप सिस्टीन चैपल जाओगे ना, तो कोई भी हो ना, समझ जाएगा.
बस जॉन एलिया के शेर से एंड करते हैं कि ये मानने में क्या तकल्लुफ़ किया जाए, ये मानने में क्या तकल्लुफ़ किया जाए, जो भी खुश है हमें उसको देखकर जलन होती है.
I'm quite a fan of his writing.
Oh yes, he is one of a kind. Yeah.
Okay. So, Supriya, you still, after so much of discussion, you still feel that artists are naturally mad, or to become artists they have to be mad?
I think we are all mad in our own ways. Poor artists are only labeled because they are so visibly mad. Rest of the people are good in making those pretense, but otherwise we are all capable of.
Capable of madness.
Yes.
The other ones are careful not to show the.
Yeah, they are very good in
You
pretense.
said it. This is a good one.
That's all.
That's all.
They just
See, if a corporate person spends like 16 hours at work for some project, हाँ दिन रात उसमें लगा हुआ है, प्रेजेंटेशन घर में भी दुखी किया हुआ है, no one says anything कि उसको passion है. अब ये as an artist, if you are there 10 hours तुम देख रहे हो कैनवस को एक दूसरे, you are labeled mad. But if the other person in the next room is doing that, nobody is going to label the person.
True.
ये stereotype है.
Yeah, of course. I think culturally the way we look at art and the way we look at profession.
कोई वो झोला उठा के and
Okay, so we conclude this session. It was very interesting, and more or less we agreed that artists can have another profession in parallel that actually feeds to art itself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.